Hello everyone. Hey, I'm going to show you how to change a string and cable on a Mathews. This is a V3X 29 inch. Pretty much all the Mathews, or most of them, have a string and a cable with the cross-centric cams, the yokes. So this is a factory string here, and we're going to change this out to some custom strings. So bear with me here. All right, so first of all, we want to take the cams loose. Well, first of all, I want to go ahead and press the bow. Make sure that it's safely secure. All right, and now we can go ahead and start taking the cams off. There's an axle screw that's at the end here. I usually take one side off. Also, I try to keep everything in a magnet tray so that I don't lose any parts, and I keep it separated. So, let's see here. So as far as the string, you could go ahead and just take it off ahead of time. When you get your strings in, you want to go ahead. They're paper clipped, and normally that is so that it has the proper and the correct turns and twists in the strings from the factory. If your custom string maker has the measurements, they will match those. And so what you do as far as the placement, you keep, like I said, everything in line of how they came from the paper clipped. But you will orient the string in the way where the peep sight was top of the bow, of course. So one side at a time. Also, usually the ends of the string are really pretty tight from the factory or from your custom string maker. And so you'll maneuver those on through the yokes. Okay. So this is where my peep will be up here. Okay. All right, now it's time for the cables. And like I said, what I like to do is take the bolt out, use a little bit larger tool, just so that I can kind of pop that out. This is a little bit too large. So get that axle out. Everybody does it a little bit differently. I've made a couple different little tools for myself, just out of some sturdy wire. And once I take this off, I can kind of put it through here just to keep it from falling. So again, everyone's different. And what I'll do is I work one side at a time. So take the yoke off. This is running through here. I like to try to keep everything lined up so that I have pretty much everything in line in case something gets out of kilter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and leave this on here for right now, just leave it loose, because I've got to change that back one out anyway first before I put all that together. Before that, we put this on the cam on that side. You've got to run it through here. Watch out for the way that this is put together. So I like to, of course, keep everything the way that I got it from the factory. So this will come up from the bottom and then go through the loop. So we're going to do that same thing. Before we do that, you need to put the yoke one on. At least get this around here. Now this will come up through the bottom. Oops, not this side, sorry. Here. Here. Get it as straight as you can right now, and everything will pretty much level out once you start putting the tension back on it, and then you can straighten out the strings. We're just getting everything re-threaded through. I like using this. Basically, this side is done. Just have to make sure that we get everything back on the cams. Since there's not tension on the string and cables, they like to come off a lot. Get it squared up, keep a little bit of pressure on the other side, and it should flow through just fine. All right, so pretty much we've got this side done. And like I say, when we start putting tension on this, it will straighten out the string, and then we can align and straighten out all the rest of it. Okay, now for the other cable. This is where I had just tied my wrist off instead of going down to the limb. It's personal preference pretty much. So I will go ahead and put this in, the screw to the axle, just so I don't have anything slip. And this doesn't have to be super tight. You can just get it hand tight and barely giving it any pressure. It has some Loctite solution on the screw, so pretty much stays in place. You don't have to worry about that. So again, you have a little screw and then you have a little washer, or a little, yeah, it's kind of a washer. Okay. All right, so this is on the back side of this, so it was a little tricky. And I didn't want to take this all apart if I didn't have to. But basically, I'm going to kind of still leave it in place just so that I don't lose any parts. But you could, if you wanted to, set it aside. Never force anything either. If something's not going right, there's got to be usually a reason for that. So just work with it. Okay. Just getting this aligned. It had moved on me a little. Okay. So this one will come over. All right. So again, taking your yokes off, it's going on the other side of this cable stop. Come up from the bottom again. Okay, we put our yokes on. And our cable. From the bottom. Okay, and these are exactly the right orientation as they were when I took them off. Watching the twist in your string and cables is very important because you want to put it as back to factory as possible. Okay. so now we can bring this back. Take this off. Okay, again, just hand tight, nothing crazy. It's not going to fall off. Hook it, it's a little tight when you get them from a string cable builder. Those hooks are a little tight, which is good. You want it to be tight. So what I do before I unpress it is I double check everything and make sure it is all lined up properly. Ready to put in this last cam. All right. All right, now just to, you can straighten these up later. They don't have to be perfect right now. But the main thing is just making sure that everything is properly lined up. Also, let me note that when you're putting the axle back into the cam, you want to make sure that you definitely get it in the right spot, because there's some bearings, sealed bearings in there that it needs to go through, and they're not totally centered within the cam itself, and you will see there's some holes in the cam, but they don't have bearings in them. So obviously you want this to roll on a bearing for smoothness and precision. So just make sure you get it in the right location. Make sure your cable's not pinched in between. So you want to check for that. You want to check for alignment to make sure that you've threaded and aligned everything correctly. What I like to do, I've done this a few times now, and what I like to do early on when I was learning was I would take pictures of how everything is threaded and aligned, just so that I didn't get anything off as far as how it was threaded. So now what you do is you hold the tension on this, or at least how I do it. Again, it's something that you do this at your own risk. I mean, you can obviously take it to a bow shop. I just enjoy working on my own stuff. So you slowly unpress it just to make sure that everything, again, is lined up, hooked on the way that it's supposed to be. Okay, it's looking good. Locked into place. All right. Now this bow here is the V3X that I mentioned earlier. It's a 29-inch. So we want to make certain basically that this is axle to axle 29 inches. So I don't have any compression on this really. And we want to make sure that these strings are really close of what they need to be. So there you go. It's pretty much right on the mark. Now there's going to be probably a little bit of a twist and turn here just to sync and time it up, but this is really close. Nothing. is off like a quarter or a half or an inch. So we know we got the right strings and so on and so forth. So there you go. So we have everything lined up. Next step is to sync everything. You've got these sync holes in the cams that you sync the timing, and then of course when I say sync, then you'll sync it up with the draw stops on the draw board, but that'll come next. So there you go. Thank you all.